a lot of time for the Spurs because a report came out today that De'Aaron Fox probably won't be ready for the season opener because of a hamstring injury that he has. And the Spurs are, you know, we know they're trying to make some moves and stuff like that this year. And of course, with Victor Wembanyama coming back healthy, and now they just got Dylan Harper in the draft, which I've talked about, the potential relationship of Dylan Harper and De'Aaron Fox in terms of like the playing time that each of them would get. Just it, like I said, I feel like they're going to obviously start De'Aaron Fox to start. um, but I would expect De'Aaron Fox to be their, starting point guard and stuff like that. Because first of all, they're paying him money. But second of all, like they brought him in to be their, win now point guard. And I understand Dylan Harper, was the number 2 overall pick for a reason, but at the same time, like, and I also have said that the Spurs are in a position where they're like, of course they would love to win with Victor Wembanyama right now if they had an option, but they also don't have to win this year. Like Victor Wembanyama is still so young. But De'Aaron Fox is obviously brought in because, they feel like they have a chance to win relatively soon with Victor Wembanyama. Because De'Aaron Fox is not old, but obviously he's like right in his prime. So with that being said, De'Aaron Fox missing the season opener with the hamstring injury is obviously not ideal for multiple reasons. One, of course, the obvious reason, potentially hurts their chances of, winning games and stuff like that to start, potentially. So that's one thing. The other concern, I guess, is like hamstring injuries. We've seen them time and time again. Like they're very tricky. And that's not to say that, he's going to miss a large portion of the season, but at the same time, hamstring injuries, can take you out for a while because you could be feeling good and then all of a sudden you just like, whatever, moved the wrong way and then it just like hurts again. Which obviously is the, case with any injury, but like hamstrings are really tricky because like they can start to feel good, but they're not actually ready. So with that being said, that is obviously a concern. Now, they have the medical team, of course, so they will make sure that when he does come back that he is healthy. But that's what I'm saying. That's like more of a internal concern, just because you want to make sure when someone comes back from a hamstring injury that they are actually ready. Which also can relate to point number 1 about, potentially having or potentially not, coming off or starting the season, winning as many games as they would like, because, they don't have De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is De'Aaron Fox, right? Like he's going to contribute to winning. He's going to put up a bunch of points on the board. He's going to make the team better. And Victor Wembanyama needs a co-star, wherever you rate De'Aaron Fox is not really the point. Like he is a, star caliber player in the league. I'm not saying he's like a top 5 player or anything like that, but, there's a reason that the Kings, ironically, they had Tyrese Halliburton and they had De'Aaron Fox. And I know in hindsight, 2020, everyone's like, why did they pick Fox over Halliburton? Just because of, what has happened in recent NBA history. And even people back then, some people, didn't like the decision. But regardless, like, they picked him because he is a good player, you know. The trajectory of his career, we'll see what, you know, happens in the end, but he's a good player. Um, so with that being said, they need De'Aaron Fox. Like, they really need him. So him missing time is obviously a bummer for the Spurs, but maybe this is a bright spot, or not a bright spot, but a golden opportunity, I guess, for Dylan Harper. I talk about this a lot on this page. We never want anyone to be injured, and it's really unfortunate, you know, when someone gets injured, because you want to see teams at full strength, and, you know, it could alter an entire season. But Dylan Harper was the number 2 overall pick for a reason. So this may be a golden opportunity for him to actually, you know, get a significant amount of playing time and being able to develop faster and being able to help the Spurs in a sooner fashion. Because the thing that I said about De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper previously is, like, as I said earlier in this live stream, I expect De'Aaron Fox to have the starting role, and Dylan Harper will probably start, you know, at some point during the season, because I would doubt that De'Aaron Fox was going to play 82 games. But I said, in my opinion, there's not no reason, but, like, there's no reason for me to believe that De'Aaron Fox would be demoted to a bench role over Dylan Harper, who never played in the NBA. So this gives Dylan Harper an opportunity to show himself, you know, potentially, you know, alter some things for himself in the rotation during the season and for the Spurs, because if he can be that guy, now again, a rookie, you know, he's not gonna not make mistakes. He's gonna make mistakes, of course. He's gonna, you know, have, you know, a learning curve, as they all do. But if he can get ahead of the learning curve by, you know, taking those minutes from De'Aaron Fox just temporarily, for however long De'Aaron Fox is out, we don't know. That could, in the long term, help the Spurs. Like I said, I've talked about this before with other players. Sometimes, again, we don't wish injuries upon anybody, but they can be a blessing in disguise for some of the younger guys. And then, like, if we're talking about like a playoff team, and then when that player comes back, assuming that that player is just like a short-term, you know, injury, it can help the team down the line, because in the playoffs you need, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not necessarily every single game. Like, you know, some games you might not play if you're the ninth man on the bench, but there will be games where they need you. And so if you can develop early on, that could be really useful to the team. So obviously we know Media Day was here and stuff like that. So we got all the Media Day photos, and, you know, all the you know, all the quotes, and you know, there's so many things that happen on Media Day. Obviously, I think there was a LeBron quote that, I think the question was like, "What are you most excited about this season?" or something to that degree. I forgot what the question was, and his answer was like, "To play a full season with a healthy Luka," whatever the question was, and that was kind of the answer to one of the questions. Obviously, you know, someone who is squeaky floorboard, you know, if you know, you know, he's here, or she's here, whatever. I don't even know if it's he or she. It's a squeaky floorboard. It's not even a person. And, you know, the inanimate object. Um, Rather, we know that Kawhi obviously is, you know, in headlines for some reasons right now, but, you know, we got some quotes from him from Media Day. He was there, took pictures, of course. So it's always a fun day to see Media Day, see people in their new jerseys, you know, get the questions and get the answers from the players. Obviously, we know that, and rightfully so, players will be, I think diplomatic is the right word, but don't quote me on that word right now. I'll have to look it up after this video. Like, I know what diplomatic means, but I don't know if I'm using that in the right connotation. but players will be diplomatic in their answers, if I use that in the right connotation, in the sense that, like, if a question is being asked by the media, like, hey, do you think you guys can win some playoff series? Of course they're going to be like, yes. Like, what player is going to be like, no, I don't think we're going to win? You know what I mean? Um, so, the answers that come from media day, you don't necessarily have to look at them as the end all be all because, again, like, they're going to be a little bit in that sense, but at the same time, sometimes we can gather some good information and, get some insight, depending on the questions that are asked. And of course, when we're talking about teams who have like new players, um, obviously, another thing that was, talked about on Media Day was with the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga and stuff like that. So obviously, there were questions on that. Um, and then, so like, you can go around to look at every team's Media Day and you can look at the questions and stuff like that. And I'm not going to sit here and go through like all the, questions and answers. Um, but it's always fun to see everyone in their new year, new jerseys. It's like, it's like the first day of school for everybody. So, um, yeah, the De'Aaron Fox thing is definitely not ideal for the Spurs, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be, or at least what I read, and sound like it's going to be, a long-term injury. He's still recovering from the surgery that he had on his pinky finger or something. I feel like he had surgery on his pinky finger or something. Um, so that's that. And then, just quickly, because speaking of surgery, um, I saw something yesterday or the day before, something like that. I didn't like read into it, so like I'm not gonna sit here and act like I read the article. But I saw something pop up about Cat, and I guess people were asking if he had had any work done on his finger or wrist or whatever was bothering him in the playoffs or stuff like that. Maybe it said like two things. I don't remember if it said like finger, if it said like finger and wrist, or it said like finger and knee or something like that. And his answer was no, from what I saw. So Cat apparently did not need surgery, so that's always good. You always want to avoid surgery if you can. I know that sometimes players get surgeries because it's recommended, because it can maybe help them heal faster or stuff like that, or maybe just rehabbing it won't get the necessary results. But apparently Kat did not have any kind of surgery. Again, if I read that headline article correctly, so that's always good news because surgery, rehab, obviously, I mean any kind of rehab is not fun, but surgery rehab is definitely not fun because first you got to go through the surgery and then start rehabbing. So that's good news for Knicks fans. So thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed and see you soon. Bye. Oh, I see a comment right before I was about to get off. Hi, just to say I love you and your content. Congratulations on making it this far on YouTube. Oh, thank you so much. I was literally getting off the live stream and I saw that comment and I wanted to make sure I, said hello, thank you, and addressed it because I really, really appreciate that. And I appreciate all you guys, who tune in and watch the content and enjoy the content. Like, I love talking about the NBA. I talk about this all the time. I love making videos, and I'm so glad that you guys are, enjoying the content. Like, that really, really makes me happy. Like, when I hear you guys say that you enjoy the content because, I want, uh, yes, I obviously, again, love making videos and I enjoy making videos and stuff like that. But I always want to have an audience is not the right word, but like, have an audience who also, has the same interests, I guess. Obviously, if you're here, you like the NBA, or if you randomly got brought here, maybe you'll start to like the NBA now that you found my content. um, but like, being able to make content where you guys watch and you like learn something, maybe you didn't know about the NBA, or maybe, it's a topic that you really want to hear about because it's your favorite player, it's your favorite team. And, you know, I think there's enough space, in my opinion, there's enough space for all of us, because there are many different, you could say many different media people, I guess, nowadays, whether it be on YouTube or on TV, and anybody can have a page like me, you know, I guess you can call it journalism, but it's I'm not a journalist, you know what I'm saying? But like, used to be you had to, get a journalism degree and those kind of things. So now it's obviously different, which obviously provides some benefits, especially for someone like me who is not a journalist, because I can make the content without, doing that. But at the same time, there are benefits, pros and cons to everything, of course. Um, but I say all that to say, because I'm trying to remember what my point was, because that was the tangent. Um, anyway, the point is, I hope you guys, do enjoy the content. And I guess one of the benefits, and I guess maybe this is my point, is that, you know, there is a wide variety of people who are giving opinions on subjects, which again, sometimes could be a negative because, too many opinions and a little bit craziness, I get it. But, you know, I also understand that the people on TV, you guys obviously, watching this, you didn't pick them, right? Like, and that doesn't mean they're not qualified, of course. And I like watching, some of those people on TV who, have, the shows and stuff like that. Like, I enjoy, their content too. I don't think that, you know, just because they are more of a journalist style and not necessarily like the video style like me or some other people, um, like I feel like there's room for everybody is my point, and I do enjoy watching some of them. So I do think that they should still be around. You know what I mean? Like I don't think we should, because I know there's a push to kind of, alter things, but I do think that they are good at what they do as well. So I think there's room for everybody, but I do also think it is nice that there is this kind of option of an outlet for people like me, who, you know, don't aren't on TV, don't have those kind of things, but at the same time we can also, talk about the NBA and discuss it and give our opinions because our opinions are opinions. They are opinions, so they're not facts. Nothing is facts, of course, as an opinion, unless we're giving like statistics. But we can you can find somebody who might have a similar opinion or interest in you. Like you can find a channel that's, Lakers content, Knicks content, stuff like that. Whereas, maybe in the past when it was really structured and it was like, those few people on TV and stuff like that, you couldn't. Like you kind of had to listen to what was, you know, given as a topic that they discuss, and you didn't really maybe get to hear a topic you wanted to hear. But again, I still think they should be around. Like I'm not diminishing them in any way. I'm just saying like pros and cons to everything. So thank you guys so much for watching.